Good morning, YouTube. I'm wearing my headset today because it is just pouring down rain, and I was afraid that if I used my speakers, it would just drown out because it's raining really, really hard. But I tried to make this video like 5 different times yesterday and failed utterly for a whole host of reasons. Neighbors deciding to work in their garage like 10 feet away. Children yelling and slamming doors, being kids, and it just got to be too much. So I decided, here you get me in the morning. This is, well, it's 7:30, been up since 6 for the kids to school and all that. Still got one getting ready, but his daddy's handling that because his daddy didn't work last night. Got my coffee. What this is, bathrobe and all, is an introduction to my husband. Tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, yesterday, still early, yesterday, I did an interview with my husband, basically asking him questions about my beliefs and my faith, how they've affected him. What does he believe about certain things now versus previously, which I find interesting. So I thought I'd give you a little introduction to my husband before I post that, because it just goes like straight into the interview. I have, for the non-Googleability, I have decided to dub him the Magician for a whole host of reasons, but it really does fit him. That's a good moniker for the YouTube channel, so I don't have to always be saying my husband, the husband. Yeah, I would rather he have a name. So we met at church. We went to the same church. It was very much a God thing that we eventually met and married. There's more to it, but I knew that I was going to marry him the instant that I saw him and we made eye contact. And we didn't meet for another few months after that. That was just a chance meeting in the bookstore. I just knew. I knew I was going to marry him. It made no sense to me, but I knew. Then I started going to Bible classes, or Bible college classes at our particular congregation, and at the last minute, all my classes got canceled for whatever reason. I don't remember what it was. And I ended up in his classes, all of them. And we didn't talk or anything. Sorry, my cat's in my lap. We didn't talk or anything. But about school stuff, you know. We ended up in small groups and stuff like that, but all we talked about was school. And then on Super Bowl Sunday, I went to evening service, and there he was. And I asked to sit next to him, and he said not a problem. And 3 days later, he asked me to marry him. And 3 months later, we were married. And we are coming up on, in a couple of weeks, we're coming up on our 14th wedding anniversary. So, to all those who said it wouldn't last, ha ha ha. And it was funny too. We lost most of our church friends over it because they said that we were too unstable. We both had a lot of issues prior to getting saved. So, they all said we were too unstable, and we didn't know each other well enough, and we had known each other too short a time, and we both basically, which was unusual, we both basically completely ignored them, said, no, this is what we're gonna do. And we did it. And then came the baby bump watch, because they were absolutely sure, they were absolutely certain that the only reason we could have gotten married that fast is because we had had sex outside of wedlock, and therefore I was pregnant and we had to get married. And that wasn't the case. Our oldest wasn't born until nearly 2 years to the day after our marriage. But they were watching that belly, man. It was funny. You know how as a woman you'll sometimes go somewhere and you want to tell the guy that you're talking to, "Hi, I'm up here." Yes, up here. Yeah, except that instead of my boobs, they were looking at my belly. And one poor soul. Oh my gosh. This man didn't have an ounce of tact in him because he had been in some kind of a motorcycle accident, and he had had a traumatic brain injury, and he got very much better. He had made a lot of progress, but the part of the results of the brain injury, he ended up with epilepsy. So, like, he couldn't drive because he didn't know when he'd have a seizure and stuff like that. And also some of his, what's it called? Like, empathy or knowing your words, what your words might have an effect on this person. That part kind of got wiped out. No malice intended. It wasn't like he turned mean or anything. No malice. He just couldn't grasp the concept that his words might hurt someone. And so after I got married, I started getting a little bit chubbier. I had been a drug addict before I started going to church, and my drug of choice at that time was meth. And I had lost a lot of weight. I was, at my lowest, I was 98 pounds, and I'm 5'6". So I had been gaining weight steadily. And I think I was starting to reach that tipping point of healthy weight. Oh, I'm chubby. After getting married, which I've heard is something that can sometimes happen because you're happy. But this poor man comes up to me. He's like, "You're pregnant!" And he was so excited. And I'm like, "No, I'm not. But I see your belly. Oh, honey, I'm just fat." "You're fat?" "Yes, I'm just fat." Aww. And I so couldn't, there's a rule. Never, ever ask someone when they're due. Unless you, have seen the ultrasound picture, okay? But I couldn't fault him. He just had the lack of filters to actually say what everybody else was thinking. But yes, so the baby bump watch started, and that was one long gestation. So 14 years, and this man and I have been very much together within the Christian faith, going to Bible studies together, doing Bible studies at home, praying together, trying to grow in Christ together. And then, of course, I was no longer joining him in that path that we had built our lives on. I had sort of cracked that foundation. And he and I have come through it with flying colors, and we are just as close as we ever were. Some of our conversations are much more interesting. But he doesn't judge me. So anyway, he's a wonderful husband and a wonderful father. He works very hard in awkward situations to try and provide for us. And I don't have enough to say about him. He's one of those rare good men. And so I hope you enjoy my interview coming up soon with him, the magician. Okay. Thank you for watching. See you soon.